For centuries, the Middle East has been known as the cradle of civilization, a wellspring of history, of culture, of faith. But it has also been a crucible of conflict, a place that feels trapped in an endless cycle of tension and war.
So, you have to ask, why? What are the deep, powerful forces that have turned this ancient land into such a persistent, such a volatile powder keg? All right, let's try to understand this together. To get a handle on what's happening today, we first have to understand the sheer scale of the past. You see, the story of the modern Middle East is a story of conflict.
Just look at this timeline. There's almost no room to breathe, is there? These aren't just isolated events. They bleed into one another, a chain reaction of cause and effect. The Arab-Israeli wars that kicked off in 1948 set a tone of conflict that never really went away. Then you had the brutal 8-year-long Iran-Iraq war, which led into 2 Gulf Wars that completely redrew the balance of power. Even the hope that came with the Arab Spring in 2011 often just morphed into new kinds of instability, leading us right to the tensions we see at this very moment. It has been a century of upheaval. But to really see why these conflicts keep happening, we have to hit the rewind button. We have to go way back, because so many of today's wounds have their roots in much older scars, from the very moment this modern map was drawn. Picture this: World War I is over, the massive Ottoman Empire has collapsed, and victorious European powers literally take a pen and a ruler to its map. They draw lines in the sand, not based on the people who lived there, the ancient ethnic, tribal, or religious communities, but to serve their own strategic interests. And with those lines, they set the stage for 100 years of conflict over land, over identity, and over power. And you can really see that transformation right here. Before the war, you had these vast, multi-ethnic lands under the Ottomans. Then after the war, secret deals like Sykes-Picot just carve it all up. And suddenly, you have the modern nation-states we know today, but their very borders were designed to be points of contention, forcing rival groups into newly invented countries. So you've got history and borders, but that's only part of the story. Because in the 20th century, something was discovered under the desert sands that was like pouring gasoline on these smoldering embers. Over 60%. Just let that sink in. That's the staggering percentage of the world's proven oil reserves, located right there in the Middle East. It was a resource that promised unimaginable wealth, but it also brought with it a terrible curse. You can see the two sides of that coin right here. On one hand, the blessing, immense wealth, rapid modernization, and a seat at the table of global importance. But the curse was just as powerful. It drew in outside powers, all desperate to control the world's energy supply. And that often meant propping up friendly dictators, fueling rivalries between neighbors, and warping entire economies. Oil wasn't just a resource anymore. It became a reason for war. Now, if the colonial borders created the container, and oil provided the fuel, there's another, deeply volatile ingredient already mixed inside this powder keg: profound internal divisions. At the very heart of so many modern conflicts is the sectarian divide. We're talking about the schism within Islam between its 2 largest branches, Sunni and Shia, a split that goes back nearly 1,400 years. But in our time, this ancient religious difference has been sharpened into a powerful political weapon. So while Sunnis make up the majority across the region, there are significant Shia populations. And this demographic split has been turned into a massive rivalry for who gets to dominate the region. It's a rivalry played out primarily between the titan of the Sunni world, Saudi Arabia, and the champion of Shia Islam, Iran. And here's the thing, this rivalry is rarely fought head-to-head. Instead, it plays out in these devastating proxy wars. That's where the big powers fight each other indirectly by backing opposite sides in another country's conflict. We've seen it from Yemen to Syria to Lebanon. Local civil wars get hijacked and turned into battlegrounds for this bigger geopolitical game, which just prolongs the bloodshed and makes peace feel almost impossible. But the Sunni-Shia divide isn't the only fracture. Running alongside it for over 70 years has been another deep, open wound: the unresolved conflict between Israelis and Palestinians. And it's so much more than a territorial dispute. It has become a potent symbol that mobilizes people, fuels radicalization, and acts as a constant source of instability for the entire region. So you take all of these local and regional tensions, the colonial legacies, the oil rivalries, the sectarian divides, and then they get magnified and manipulated by players on the global stage. Global powers like the United States, Russia, China, they all have skin in the game, and they exert their influence in every way you see here. They flood the region with military aid, they apply diplomatic pressure and economic sanctions, And crucially, they back their own proxy forces. This outside meddling often takes a local fight and turns it into an international battleground, making any genuine resolution incredibly difficult.
So here's the most important thing to understand. It's not any single one of these issues. It's the way these layers all stack on top of one another. It's this unique, combustible combination that explains why this powder keg is always so ready to ignite.
Let's just recap the ingredients one last time. You start with the unstable foundation of those colonial borders. You pour in the immense pressure of the oil curse. You mix in the deep bitterness of sectarian divides and the raw wound of the Arab-Israeli conflict. And finally, you have outside powers constantly fanning the flames. The end result of this mixture is a region of fragile states and constant power vacuums. You get weak governments and people who feel left behind, creating an environment where any spark, a political assassination, a border dispute, a single protest, can set off a chain reaction with devastating consequences for the region and for the world. And all of this leaves us with one final unsettling question. The powder keg is packed, the fuses are many, and they are short. In a landscape this complex, this volatile, the real challenge isn't just about putting out the fires we see today. It's about figuring out how to stop the next spark from ever being lit.
At Geotectonics, our mission is to uncover these profound tectonic shifts, offering clarity in a world of complexity. If this analysis deepened your understanding, please like this video to support our work, share it with others who seek real insight, and subscribe to Geotectonics to ensure you never miss our next deep dive. We'll continue to explore the crucial geopolitical movements that define our time. Thank you for joining us.